What's up, fellow streamers? Welcome to this week's episode of the Keeping Karlsson Matchup Maximizer podcast, a podcast where I, sometimes Jeremy, takes a look at next week's schedule and tries to figure out which teams we should be targeting for our streaming in order to maximize our games played for our head-to-head matchups. This is coming down to it, people. There are 3 more weeks left in the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League schedule. Probably similar in other leagues, and then it's the playoffs. So we really need to be, well, depending on your situation, you may really need to be gaming the system and getting as many games as possible, potentially dropping some players that you wouldn't have thought of dropping before. You look at Trevor Moore. He was like so great for so long, but now he's cold. If LA had a bad schedule, would you make that switch if you really needed to, do what you need to do? Shams dropped Slavkovsky from his couple team. We're all doing crazy stuff right now, but all I'm going to do in this podcast anyways is take a look at the schedule, like I said, and we're going to point out the teams that we could target and then some players on those teams to maybe consider for this upcoming matchup of February 26th to March 3rd. So let's just get right into it. Next week, it's your standard fantasy hockey week. I don't know why the NHL has to be this way. Like, why is it that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday have to be busy and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday generally have to be quiet? But that's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. I don't know. I'd be curious to know the answer. But anyway, next week, no exception. Really busy on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 24, and 26 teams playing, and then super light on those other days. So it becomes pretty straightforward of knowing which teams you want to grab players from. Though, of course, I still recommend before you move further into this podcast, pause it for a second and go set your roster for next week. Maybe you do have room for a left wing on Thursday, or maybe you have room for a defense on some day. So definitely make sure, because there's no point just listening to me and being like, don't stream from this team because you can only get so many games, and actually you can get more games. But I'm going to assume that we only have spaces on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And we've got 2 teams that will give you 3 light day games. So that's going to be our best we can do this week. Those teams are the Edmonton Oilers and the Washington Capitals. Let's start in Edmonton. They play Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm going to, come and apologize right now, because last week I was saying that Corey Perry was looking like a good stream for the Oilers, who also had a good schedule this week. And unfortunately, he didn't last too long on his line with McDavid and Draisaitl, and that led to him not doing that well. He did have a goal back on the Wednesday. So, not the most terrible week, but one goal in 4 games. Obviously, we take the L there. That's the problem with targeting these Edmonton guys. We have the players that are rostered everywhere, and then all the people that you might be able to grab, it's like we want them if they're in a good deployment situation, but it changes so quickly. So all I can tell you is in their latest game against Calgary, they were rolling with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman for a lot of the game, leaving Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to play with Draisaitl and Corey Perry. So there you go. There was a stretch where Warren Foegele was also getting good deployment. Maybe that's even over already. So what do you do? Fogel's been, I don't know, he had a good game in that game versus Calgary on Saturday. Took 5 shots, didn't get any points. Edmonton lost 6-3. Maybe things change. Maybe he gets back up playing with McDavid again. I think Foegele is probably your best streamer. He's had 5, 3, and 5 shots in his last 3 games. He had 2 goals against Boston earlier in the week. So if you're going to go with an Edmonton player, it would be Foegele, or I guess you go for Corey Perry again. But these are not sure thing. So let's see if we can do a little better. But like I said, you can get the Monday, Wednesday. You can always get the Monday, Wednesday, and then you reassess, right? Maybe you don't need to hold for the Saturday, Sunday, especially if you can't fit for the Saturday. Maybe, you just aim to get 2 for sure games. Hopefully Foegele or Perry stay in a decent spot. If that's the player you add against LA and St. Louis, then you switch around. So that's Edmonton. Not much I can really advise you to do there. I guess it's worth noting, especially if you have room for a defenseman on the Saturday. Mattias Ekholm has picked things up recently. He's got 5 points in his last 5 games, all assists. But hey, you'll take it, right? He's been getting consistent, a block a game, couple hits. So maybe actually that's your best bet on Edmonton. Forget about the forwards that can go hot and cold. Maybe take a solid enough D that right now is bringing you the peripherals and is starting to get in on some points. After I traded him in my Dynasty League, I did a cap dump. I paid to get rid of Ekholm. So obviously now he's going hot in my fantasy playoffs. So what are you going to do? Okay, but he'd be definitely a good target right now. The other team with a good schedule next week with 3 off-day games is the Washington Capitals. Monday, Tuesday, and then Friday, Sunday. So you could always grab the Monday and then reassess after that. If you can't fit the Tuesday game, maybe if you just wait. Maybe you get an Oilers player for Monday, Wednesday, switch over to Washington for Friday, Sunday. There you go. 4 games just like that. Who are you going to take on Washington? So yeah, TJ Oshie is out, which has changed things around. They were rolling like Ovechkin with Strome and Oshie, and that made Strome and Oshie very interesting. Of course, with Oshie out, I think it's pretty clear that our beneficiary here has got to be Tom Wilson. Or maybe Connor McMichael? Okay, here were the lines for yesterday's game versus Florida, and we can try to decide if we think that these lines are going to stick. The Panthers did end up winning the game in overtime. Gustav Forsling scored the OT winner there. No points for Ovi. First time in a while that he was held off the score sheet. But maybe the lines will stick. And Ovi was playing with Connor McMichael and Nicholas Aube-Kubel. So that's pretty wild for a lot of the game. And then that left Dylan Strome to center Anthony Mantha and Tom Wilson. I'm not going to recommend Mantha. A few people on the Discord, the Keeping Karlsson patron Discord, have been talking about how maybe Mantha's interesting. I don't know. For me, it's just like I don't trust the guy. He's going to I don't think it's going to last. But I said the same thing about Jack Roslovic on the podcast last week, and he's had a pretty good week. So you could always go Mantha, but I would definitely take a look at Tom Wilson if he's been dropped, like especially if your league counts hits, as always. But now, Wilson had 2 assists against Tampa a couple games ago, scored against Florida. So he's starting to get better deployment. He also got more power play time now that Oshie is out of the picture. So it looks like in the last game, the top power play was Sonny Milano that got on the top power play. But of course, Ovechkin is on both power plays. It was kind of Dylan Strome was also off the top unit. It was a Pacioretty, Ovechkin, McMichael, Milano. That might be actually the second unit. They just got more time for whatever reason, right? Then there was a unit of Ovechkin with Strome, Mantha, and Tom Wilson. Sonny Milano is someone who hasn't been around in a while. He has crazy hair. If you look at his picture over on Frozen Tools, he scored a goal also against Florida. So, okay, I need to give you a list here because there's a lot of these Washington players might be available to you. I think this is definitely a good team to stream from, especially later in the week, like I said, but maybe you'll have to jump quickly. Obviously, Dylan Strome would be your number 1. I'll say Pacioretty is the number 2. He's got 3 assists in his last 4 games. He's taking some shots too. Must be a little bit snake bitten. He hasn't scored in forever, but the shot counts are good. He had 4 shots, like I said. He had 3 and 4 shots a couple games back. So yeah, Pacioretty would be a good get if you can get him. So if you can't get Strome, you can't get Pacioretty, then I'll say Tom Wilson. And then I think we got to take a look at Connor McMichael, right? He's didn't do anything in that game against Florida. Before that, he had 2 games in a row with 2 goals. So I think maybe he would be my next pick. And then after that, I guess, and then you kind of go down the list. You can take a look at a Milano. You can take a look at a Mantha. But I would look at Connor McMichael. If you're in a deeper league where guys like Wilson and Pacioretty are already taken, I think McMichael is going to be my top pick. So yeah, he's definitely someone that I would be interested in. But there's a few options for you, right? Now that these lines are getting mixed up, and now that there's even 2 power plays that got similar amounts of time, so you have a few options. Like I said, if you can't get McMichael, next you go probably Milano, and then fine, I'll say Mantha. Maybe Mantha over Milano. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so those are our 2 best teams, Edmonton and Washington. Of course, maybe you'll do better off just grabbing a team that doesn't give you as many off-day games, but maybe we'll like the player better. So we'll take a look at the teams now that give us 2 off-day games next week. After a quick break, you're listening to the Matchup Maximizer. Welcome back to the Matchup Maximizer podcast. I have already gone through the 2 teams that give us 3 light day games next week. There are 5 teams that have 2 light day games. So let's go through them and see if there's any players we want to mine from these teams. I guess I'll just go alphabetically here. We can start in Anaheim. They're definitely going to be a late week stream. Okay, Anaheim plays Thursday and then Friday, Sunday. So if you have room for Thursday, maybe you grab the player now. If not, maybe you just wait. See if you can just snatch your duck on the Friday, Sunday. I'm sure you might be having to get up a little bit early on the Friday morning if you want to try to pull this off. Maybe a lot of managers in your division will have a similar idea. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of players to choose from. You look at Yahoo, there's only a couple players that are over 50% roster, and those are Frank Vetrano and Radko Gudas. And then after that, and obviously that's probably the Gudas's from all the people in categories leagues that count hits. But yeah, even Troy Terry, only 45% rostered. He's taken all the a couple divisions, of course. Terry's been on a torrid run lately. No points in the game against LA yesterday, but before that, like two straight 3-point games. So yeah, Terry is obviously not going to be available to you. If he somehow is in your league, like he'd be a great stream and probably a hold. Mason McTavish is also on a nice run right now. He had 2 goals against Columbus, 3 assists versus Buffalo in the game before. No points versus LA yesterday, but 5 shots, which is great. I'm going to assume you can't get those 3 guys, Terry, McTavish, Vetrano. Trevor Zegras is still injured, so let's go to the next level. And I think there are some interesting guys here. Like if you look at the lines for yesterday, we had a line of Troy Terry was with McTavish and Vetrano. So there you go. Just forget that line. They're probably not available. Then the second line was Leo Carlsson centering Alex Killorn and Adam Henrique. So I think those are our 3 that we need to look at. Henrique was on a power play with Silfverberg, Strome, and Vetrano, which actually got a lot more time than the power play with Troy Terry, McTavish, Leo Carlsson, and Alex Killorn, which is interesting. You would have thought it would be the other way around. So I like Adam Henrique. He's been good for a while now. I've got him on my couple team, and he has slowed down a little bit, but he did have an assist yesterday against LA. A couple games ago, he scored a goal against Buffalo. I think he's in a good spot. He's getting decent enough ice time, 20 minutes and 51 seconds in that game yesterday. So I think Adam Henrique would be my top pick there. Then if we want to take a look at what Alex Killorn is doing, if you recall, he just came back somewhat recently from his injury. He's played 4 games now, 2 points, nothing yesterday versus LA, but he did play 21 minutes. So I think probably people are like, not too exciting. But I could see Killorn being worth a grab if he's still available for you for the end of next week. So he'd probably be my next pick. And Leo Carlsson, yeah, he's pretty slow, but at any point he can go off. He's obviously going to have a great, bright future, and I guess he's reacclimating himself. He was doing really good when he first started, but since coming back from his injury, handful of assists here and there, nothing especially exciting. So yeah, I guess those are mainly the Ducks worth looking at. I suppose I could mention Ryan Strome. He's not someone that interests me that much, kind of like in the Mantha tier where I've just been like burned by him too much. He did have a 1-goal, 1-assist game a couple weeks ago against Toronto in the 9-2 loss. He did have an assist, also Ryan Strome versus LA yesterday. So yeah, I would definitely go with Killorn and Henrique would be my top 2. I'm going to say Henrique number 1. He's a great streamer. Then like Killorn, a close number 2. And then on the next level, I'll put Carlsson, and then sure, you're Ryan Strome. And I guess that would be it. You could also take a look at defense, right? Like if you have no space on Thursday for a forward, but you have space for a D, and you want to get 3 games from your stream, then Pavel Mintyukov is back. He did have a 3-assist game against Columbus. Aside from that, it's been very quiet, but he's getting a lot of power play time. And then there's Cam Fowler also, who is just steady enough, but not too exciting. So for the upside, I'd probably go with Mintyukov. I'd expect him to have another 3-point game before Fowler does. Okay, that's the Ducks. I spent a long time on them. Next up, the Arizona Coyotes. They are giving us Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. So maybe the same schedule as the Ducks, depending on if you have room on Tuesday or not. But if you can fit a Tuesday or a Thursday, then that becomes really good. Otherwise, yeah, another late week streamer. Arizona's been this team that I guess we've been talking about every week. They keep on having decent off-day schedules. Unfortunately, the players haven't been producing the way we would have hoped. By the way, I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon. There is a game later today. The Coyotes are playing the Jets, so who knows how that's going to go. Maybe you could get that to help with your information. In Arizona's last game versus Toronto, the top line that Arizona was rolling was Keller, not with Schmaltz, actually. They've been split up. It was Keller with Gunther and Logan Cooley. And then if you look at the top power play, it was Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, and Gunther, though then they also switched it up at one point, and then it was Keller, Schmaltz, Gunther, and Zucker. So I don't know, Hayton versus Zucker. I don't know what's happening on the power play there, but I do know that I like Gunther, right? Because his name keeps coming up. If he's going to be getting the exposure with Keller, then he's the one that interests me. And while he hasn't been too incredible, he did score a goal against Toronto. He's had a decent number of shots the last few games. So I think of your streamable Coyotes, like you can't get Keller. I know he's ice cold, but I'll still take Schmaltz next. If he's been dropped and then it's like coming up to Friday of next week or, Thursday and you have a spot, like I'm going to take a chance on the guy who's like been so productive in the past, though I do definitely get that he's on a cold streak, and Brian and I will talk about him on today's show. But yeah, after that, give me Dylan Gunther and I think he was my pick like a couple weeks ago also, so who knows. And then after that, man, it's a real crapshoot. Like once you're not on the top power play, you can go for a Cooley, you can go for a Zucker or a Hayton. hope for the best. Michelli's out there, like Lawson Krause, right? So he was the talk of the town for a while. He's been pretty quiet, though he does have actually 2 points in his last 3 games. So maybe Lawson Krause would be my next pick after Gunther. And then after that, just a handful of guys. Nick Bjugstad is out there. He's actually been decent lately. He has 3 points in his last couple games. So, pick your poison. Matt Dumba has been good, by the way, if you need defense. So again, if you could fit a D but not a forward on Tuesday or Thursday, maybe you take a look at a Matt Dumba, get your Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday from a guy who's been great for hits. He's been like decent for blocks, taking some shots, and even has some points. He has 3 points in his last 3 games. Nothing in that last game against Toronto, but that was a tough game. That was a pretty wild game. Okay, so that is the Coyotes. Hope I'm helping you. I feel like I just named a bunch of Coyotes, but at the end of the day, what is this podcast? I don't like to think of this as like I'm telling you who to add. I'm giving you the information. Who are the teams and who are the players you can consider? Then I love to hear back some feedback and hear like who you decided to end up grabbing. Next up, we've got the Devils. So again, we're looking at late week. A lot of the teams that have 2 off-day games are the Friday, Sunday. So New Jersey is Tuesday. That's at San Jose, though. So potentially you might want to grab your Devil. And the Devils like need to win, right? They're going to be coming out hard. So they're not going to go like, oh, we're playing San Jose, we can take it easy. I think they're going to try to go for like a 6-1 win or something. So maybe you add your Devil and then you sit someone else, depending on who you get. And then also then Friday, Sunday against Anaheim and then LA. So yeah, definitely the potential for your Devils streamer to do pretty well for you. The question is, who do you grab? Because New Jersey, kind of like Edmonton, most of the top players that are interesting are just never available. You're not going to get Hughes. You're not going to get Brad, Heishier, Toffoli, Timo Meyer, who's actually starting to do a little bit better, which is nice to see. Had a goal and an assist yesterday against Montreal. After that, yeah, I guess we're looking at our Dawson Mercers, our Eric Howlas. Like I can tell you the lines for yesterday. Though actually the Devils are playing today. I wonder, let me just take a look really quickly here at GameDayTweets.com and see if we have today's Devils lines, because they switched the lines up in the last game. Yeah, I don't have updated lines, but they started the third period of their last game with Heishier, Brad Meyer, and then Hughes with Toffoli and Dawson Mercer. So if that holds, if Dawson Mercer is back up with Jack Hughes, he becomes interesting again. Sometimes Dawson Mercer just goes hot. So anyway, it's not like a huge reco because he's been super cold. I guess you could also go with like a Palat. There's like no one too interesting here. Like, it would be like a Howla, Mercer, or a Palat. And yeah, none of them are especially exciting. The lines have been shuffled around a lot though. So if you can get exposure to Jack Hughes, you just go for that and you hope for the best. Okay, so the next team with 2 off-day games for us is going to be the Ottawa Senators. And look at that, we even have an early game finally. So Monday, Tuesday, and then Friday, Sunday. So you can get, if you could fit Tuesday, that's great. To get 3 games before the weekend, then you drop for someone else. If you could only get them Monday, Friday, that could still be worth it depending on your other options. Ottawa has one player that I know has been talked about recently, Matthew Joseph. He's available in a lot of leagues, and he's been playing on a line with Stützle and Claude Giroux. So, not the best power play deployment for Matthew Joseph, but I love that even strength, and he's converting, right? He has 5 points in his last 5 games now. That's 2 goals. 2 goals all were in one game against Tampa, and then 3 assists spread out over those other games. So, yeah, not too many shots, not much power play, like I said, but it's a really good spot to be in. So, especially just for a Monday stream, if you have the ad against Washington, go for that. Then you could always reassess. But yeah, Matthew Joseph, definitely interesting. And then, it depends who's available to you, right? Like I'm still into Shane Pinto. If you can get him, he's been taken in a lot of the leagues I'm in. He's kind of cooled down. If you just look at the score sheet, only 2 points in his last 6 games, but taking a lot of shots game in, game out. So I will say I would take Shane Pinto over Matthew Joseph if you have that option. Did you know that Josh Norris is only 21% rostered on Yahoo? That's wild. If he's available to, go get him. He was cold for a bit, but he's got goals in 2 straight games, 2 straight multi-point games for Josh Norris. He's Josh Norris. Get him. He shouldn't be a free agent. Come on. I guess there's different types of leagues out there. But yeah, so if you get Norris, go him. If I'm just looking at people under, like Tarasenko's at 47%. So if we're going under Tarasenko level, then yeah, definitely Norris. Then give me Pinto, and then give me Matthew Joseph. And then you could always go for our slap shot into the empty net, Ridley Gregg, though he hasn't been getting the most incredible deployment lately. Well, he's playing with Norris and Batherson, but Ottawa's like really spreading things around, right? It's Giroux, Joseph, and Stützle. Then they had Kachuk with Tarasenko and Pinto, then Norris, Batherson, and Ridley Gregg. So I gave you my picks. I stand by them. And then I guess actually that finishes us up for the teams that give you either 3 or 2 light day games next week. Yeah, so I guess it's pretty straightforward here. We could look on the other side at teams that don't have any light day games next week. Like maybe you're gonna have to start making some tough calls. Like I said at the start, if you need to win this matchup, Calgary only goes Tuesday, Saturday. If you have a fringe flame, if you have Sharon Govich, that might be a tough hold for a week where you might not even fit him in for any games. There's a lot of teams that have no light day games, like Carolina. I could come up off the top of my head. Maybe you drop Tara Vinen. Okay, I'm going to play a game with myself right now. Who do we drop from each team? Chicago, I guess your Nick Foligno's and your Philip Kurashevs. You added them for their deployment to Bedard. It's been okay, but maybe now is the time to move on, especially from Kurashev. Foligno would be a tough drop. He's been doing pretty well. Tyler Johnson also. But yeah, you're not getting any games. What are you going to do? Colorado, who are we dropping? Drouin. Maybe you have to consider dropping Drouin. Detroit. So Detroit only plays on the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So maybe you're dropping a David Perron. This is fun. Just like, who's a fringe guy that people might have rostered on teams that have 0 games? Maybe I should do this every week. Let me know what you think of this segment. Florida plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Maybe you're dropping, I don't know, Sam Bennett. Tough drop, but sometimes you got to make the tough move, get extra games, win a must-win week. Montreal plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I guess you can drop Slavkovsky, which is so wild how things change quickly. Like he was the toast of the town, and now I guess cold enough that Shams dropped him. Brian and I will definitely dive into Slavkovsky on the Mega Show tonight. Nashville, I'm not dropping Nyquist, so who's next? I'm not dropping O'Reilly, Forsberg, or Nyquist, so anyone else, aside from Roman Josi, of course. Drop Tommy Novak. That'll be my guy that might be rostered that you have to drop. Tampa, I guess drop Cirelli or Nick Paul. If you have them, you can let them go. Toronto plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So maybe you're dropping Bobby McMahon. He had a nice run. Probably not going to fit him in, though. I would definitely keep him close because if he's still going to be playing with Tavares, that's good. Brian and I will talk about him on the Mega Show. Also, Brian might have to do a mea culpa. I'll be curious what he thinks. Vegas, I don't know. William Karlsson. All right, so there we go. Those are some players you might have to consider dropping depending on your situation. Hope that this was a helpful episode to you. Good luck in your matchups next week. I'm going to win my couple matchup this week, it looks like. I know I said at the end of the last Mega Show that I'm pretty much out. I think if I could win all 3 of the next weeks, I still have a chance. So I don't know. We're trying here. My team really came through for me this week, and did nothing last week. If they could have just evened it out a little bit, I could have won both weeks. I'd feel a lot more comfortable right now. But them's the breaks. Yes. So good luck in your matchups. Please make sure to be subscribed to the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey podcast to get podcasts like this, short shifts next week, the mega shows. It all comes to you. If you could subscribe, it auto downloads, helps us, help yourself, and we'll all have a merry good time. Good luck with your streaming, and we'll see you next week on the Matchup Maximizer. See ya.